Hello guys, welcome back to Trinity 10. This is Thursday's video, our part 2 of diversification, and I'm super excited. I know I kind of sped through it for Tuesday's video with diversification as using Jeff Bezos as our point of reference to see what diversification looks like, how he got there, and then what pieces we've all seen as his consumers on how he got to that place to diversify and now be the #1 delivery service in the United States based on his company alone, not even including other parcels or other people who use shipping. So this is a huge milestone. I want to kind of dial it back a bit because I know I've spoken on a couple of different topics where I'm like, okay, infrastructure is important because from infrastructure, you get KPIs. From KPIs, you then get a point of reference on what your norm should be. Your norm should then produce a guaranteed profit or a guaranteed revenue for your customers as well as for your company. So you kind of get a consistency there. Once you get that consistency and your point of reference is in place, you now have the funds available to kind of hone in on your strengths. And then once you hone in on your strengths, they should then incur more revenue. And then that revenue can be used to mitigate or kind of eliminate some of your weaknesses, because once you eliminate those weaknesses, you're now in a place to become a competitor. All weaknesses don't go away. Business evolves. You acquire new companies, you merge with companies, all of these things kind of happen, but you want the finances to be able to address those weaknesses and address any opportunities that pop up in the market. If you don't have the funds available, you can't diversify in that new area, right? So if you create phones, it would just make sense for you to have a chip company, or it would just make sense for you to be a part of a glass company or a phone case company, you know, something like that. You would find ways to remain true to yourself, but you diversify by reducing the amount of overhead you incur. You would find ways to kind of upsell your customers, because okay, if you buy the phone from me, I have a phone case company, now I'm doubling, you know, the amount of money that I'm getting from one customer, as opposed to having to reinitiate the customer getting processed or advertise double. You know, I always talk about that. It costs more to acquire a customer than it does to have them as a repeat customer. So you don't want to extend yourself in that way if you don't have to. So with Jeff Bezos from Tuesday's video, we see how he is an e-commerce giant. From being an e-commerce giant, what does he need? He needs trucks, he needs transportation, he needs delivery services. So he's found a way to remain true to himself, where he started out in e-commerce, but then use that strength to then gain an opportunity and reduce his overhead by having his own trucking services. So when it comes to your SWOT, I feel like that was our most recent topic, and SWOT is important for this topic of diversification because you have to become a competitor. Things like this don't happen until you've become an established competitor. You have people who are possibly so engaged with you that they don't want to become a customer of anyone else. They know what you're like. You've gained your reputation, right? You've really honed in on your strengths. You've put the money there. You've put the money to mitigate your weaknesses, so your customers are repeat customers. And then now when an opportunity comes up, your money is there. And then with that opportunity, you now gain a higher hedge to defend you against any threats, right? So for Jeff Bezos, his threat would have been UPS, for example, raising their fees for a truckload of his product, or UPS raising the fees for any return product. Who else? USPS, the United States Postal Service. He would have been, you know, working with them and having to get to rural areas with that. And they can adjust the price. They can become a threat to his bottom line. They can become a threat to his profit because they control the final step of what it is Jeff Bezos does. He can have all the product he wants. The internet is still moving. He's still taking in the charges and taking in the profit. He's taking in their payments, all of these things. But if it doesn't get to their door, that's going to stop his business. That's going to cause an issue for what it is he needs to fulfill within his business. So when you go to diversify, I want you to be at a position where you are a true competitor. Being a competitor matters because you're at a place where people are going to pay attention to what it is you are doing. You do not want to invest in something and nobody's paying attention. You've spent millions of dollars to build infrastructure because Jeff Bezos had to build an infrastructure around his transportation section of Amazon. You've wasted millions of dollars for infrastructure. You've done all of these things and you don't have a stake in that industry. You know, you don't have a stake in being a real competitor. I've never seen an eBay delivery driver. I've never seen a drop shipping delivery driver. So once you're a competitor and you're in a good position to kind of move about and sit on your throne a little bit and see what else is out there for you to gain as an opportunity, then this puts you in a position where everybody's eyes are on you. And now you have the position and the power to do what you will. And then even in doing what you will, as far as business is concerned, you're now garnering even more finances because the attention is on you, right? So if Jeff Bezos didn't have our attention with Prime, if Jeff Bezos didn't have our attention with the 2-day shipping because we don't like to wait anymore, then nobody would have cared about him, being the #1 delivery service in the United States. We would have been like, okay, I didn't even know he had trucks. But because attention is on him and this is a legitimate part of his business, he's just diversifying it. This put him in a position to introduce these things and then gain a profit from them, right? Remember we talked about on Tuesday's video where you have revenue, which is what your company is taking in from your sales and all of these things like that. And then you have to subtract for overhead. That's your building, your product, your fabrics, whatever it is. And then after we subtract that overhead, we then get to the place of profit. He minimized his overhead and only gained profit. So to be a competitor, you have to have really just sat and watched the industry, watched your entire infrastructure, like looked it over through and through, how your steps go, what your processes are, what your KPIs are. And then this kind of ties into my topic of scoping for the future. Scoping for the future is for you to double your profit. You don't want to incur more overhead. You don't want to not be able to pay your investors back. So once you're in a position where you've scoped out everything, you're now ready to move on to the next level, and you have the finances to do that because you're a major competitor, your customers are loyal. And when you seek this area out, it's usually after time. Like I said on Tuesday's video, Jeff Bezos was worth $10 billion in 1996 and like driving a Honda Accord. The Honda Accord doesn't really matter. I just guess it like speaks to his humility. But anyway, so he was worth $10 billion in 1996. This provided him with the liquid to expand. And this was only done because he was such a giant in the e-commerce industry. He started it out, one of the first ones to do it. So don't look to diversify too soon, because if you look to diversify too soon, you will overextend yourself, and then you're overextending yourself before you even have a set process on what it is you started out in business for in the first place. If Jeff Bezos tried to own trucks while he's delivering books, that doesn't make sense because he doesn't have enough customers that want to order books to support the cost of him purchasing trucks. You get what I'm saying? Like there's a flow to it. It comes with time because you have to have revenue. It comes with time because you have to gain your clients' loyalty. It comes with time because you have to be in a position to gain attention and garner and keep that attention by what you do, how you produce. So don't overextend yourself too early trying to worry about diversification. Like I said, this comes after finding your niche, gaining infrastructure, getting KPIs, going with employees, training employees. There's so many steps in between getting to diversification. But if you do them correctly, if you have a team who supports you, who's positive, like I talked about last week, they pour into you, they're not with the negativity, they're ready to go to the next level. If you have a team who's like this, and when you go to scope for the future and then ultimately diversify, you're in a position where you're going to kill it. and be a household name for years to come. So I just wanted to pour that out there, you guys. Diversification is so fun. It is exciting. Diversification looks so different. It could be an acquisition, a merger. You could even become a subsidiary and then thrive from there. There's so many ways that diversification can impact you and ultimately your profit as a business owner. So tune in all the time on Tuesdays and Thursdays for my Trinity 10s. The Conscious Leader will be out on Friday, December 15th. Be sure to check my posts for the link to purchase the book, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, guys.